We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we start, I just want to start off on a good note here, a positive note. We have a letter of commendation from the sheriff, Houston County Sheriff, on the officers that were involved in the burglary arrest in Brownsville. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to recognize the officers involved. Sergeant Travis Lapham, Houston County Deputy, Sergeant Zach Swetberg, Deputy Isaiah Bunkie, Deputy Calvin Nagel, Dispatcher Brady Auger, Dispatcher Chad Reddy, and Officer Caleb Peterson of La Crescent, and Trooper Jake Inglet of Minnesota State Patrol. So they all did a very good job in responding at a 2:06 a.m. burglary. It reminds me of the country song, "Try That in a Small Town." So I just wanted to thank all those guys involved. So very good. Okay, on to approving the agenda. We have some conflicting agenda requests here from HR involving a resignation from Lucas, and then also a step placement reconsider. So
I'd like to remove the step or action item number 6 from the agenda.
okay, also action item number 6 wants to be removed.
And consent. Item number 1. To be removed.
And 2.
And 2. Yep.
Okay.
Right.
I also would like to add on the agenda, action item number 8. I intend to resign from the Personnel Committee, and so we need to have a board action to reappoint another commissioner to that committee. Seeing as how we're in the middle of negotiations, so I would like to add that as well. Is there anything else? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Those 3 adjustments, I'll move to approve the agenda. 4 adjustments, I guess, counting addition.
Yep. Is there a second to that motion? Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda approved. Approve the previous minutes from board meeting of May 28th. Everybody's had a chance to look at those. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. Public comment. Now is the time for anyone who would like to make a public comment. On the screen.
Right on the screen. Hand is up.
Max, do you have a public comment or?
I do. Thank you, commissioners. So, commissioners, my name is Max Forrester. I'm a labor representative speaking on behalf of Local 2166, the Houston County Employees Union. We would just like to lend our support to what previously had been numbered consent agenda item number 3. This is approving the banding and pay rate change of accredited Minnesota appraiser Joseph Olson from B25 to a non-exempt C41 step 2, retroactive to June 3rd, 2024. The reasoning is just that the job has changed significantly. Licensing requirements are changed on a 4-year cycle, and the current requirements are far higher than they were previously. And Even a cursory market comparison demonstrates that the rate of pay is significantly below even entry-level appraiser positions in neighboring counties. So we are in support of this banding change, as it represents a meaningful step towards retaining qualified, hard-to-replace employees. So we are asking you to vote yes on consent agenda item number 3. Thank you. Yield my time.
Thanks, Matt. Anyone else? All right. Appointments, we could start with that. It's exactly 9:05, so we'll start with the public hearing for off-sale liquor license for Money Creek. So is there a motion to suspend our regular board meeting and to go into a public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, now we are into public hearing. Polly, or you want to give us an overview of what we're dealing with here?
Yes, I can do that. We should have, I believe, Michael Burbach from Money Creek Haven was gonna join us today too. But for the off-sale liquor license, there had to be a public hearing in the paper for 2 weeks before the board could approve the off-sale liquor license. So they already have the resolution and approval from Money Creek Haven for this liquor license. So we're to the point of board approval right now.
Do
I don't
do
know.
you mean Money Creek Township or Money?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Money Creek Township has approved.
Okay,
Yep.
Yep.
Request as well. So we're to the point now of the county board approval. And I'm not sure, is Michael here today?
yeah, I'm looking for him. I don't see him.
Okay,
He's not,
something changed.
what's that?
Something must have changed. I think it was his plan to be here, so.
Oh,
Who's the 608-3?
is there someone online now? 608-386-93236. Identify yourself. Are you Michael? Well, I guess we probably should table this public hearing until Michael is here, or
Are there any comments or questions?
is there any comments or from the public on this situation? Otherwise, we could, deal with it as right now too.
Do they sell beer there now?
It's for off-sale liquor license, yes. We approved an
On-site sale?
on-site sale, so earlier, yep.
Yeah, for the off sale, they were just gonna sell it like at their office, the campground office and the pool side is what he said. They wanted to
Yep.
get a combination on-off sale license. But for the off sale part, you have to have a public hearing. That's the statute.
Right. Thanks, Mark. That's Mark Bennett.
Yep.
From the auditor's office.
Township was okay with it all.
Correct, yeah. They do have a resolution stating they do approve.
I'll make a motion that we
No,
Are we
no,
gonna
this
go
is
up?
just
We
for
gotta-
the public comment, public
All right.
hearing.
step that line.
The action item is down further, so.
Yep.
Well, if there's no other public comment or is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Public hearing is done. Okay. Is there a motion to reconvene our regular session?
So move.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll go into Houston County Child Care Core Team update presented by the Workforce Development Incorporated Adult Services Director Kyle Mullen.
Hello, I am Kyle Moe, as you mentioned, the Adult Services Director. Pretty excited today to share with you some of the good work that this Board of Commissioners got started just shy of a year ago. Let me see here. I'm going to make sure I share my screen properly as I move through things. Hopefully that the PowerPoint is showing up for you guys. Okay, perfect. So I want to present just to speak on the progress that's been made. Also, as we're building our team here at Workforce Development, ownership of this will be transitioning to our new Child Care Sector Coordinator. We're building a team of folks to work on this. That'll be Jill Vandenhoevel. She wasn't able to join us here today, but you'll be likely seeing her other dates or seeing other communication coming from her. So first is a quick just overview of what we did last summer with Allison and John and my boss Ginny. We came together, built a kind of three-tiered plan to try and help the development and maintenance or retention of the child care providers in Houston County, with a focus on preserving or increasing the number of available child care slots. Like many other regions, Houston County has been facing a decline in this vital services. So this Board of Commissioners authorized a large investment over 3 years for 3 categories of facilities, training, and then research/marketing. The facilities grant was the first project we got launched because of the identified provider need. I'll go over some of the impressive results from that in a little bit. We have also offered free enhanced quality trainings to the different providers, improving the quality of their services, helping them meet some of the licensing requirements, and expanding what's available beyond some of CPR first aid. And we've also been working on building a pipeline for new employees coming in, because the challenges are not only fiscal, but in finding the staff for this field. Unfortunately, a lot of our youth have actually actively expressed an interest in the child care field as the career they want to pursue. So we worked with some of the schools and some of the job fair events to have some providers there answering questions, and the conversations were really great to see there. But first, I want to go ahead and call out something that honestly had positive results beyond what we anticipated and is absolutely worth sharing. So some of you have probably heard about different communities where businesses and such have invested in trying to address the child care problem. KLN out in Perham, they put $450,000 towards the expansion of a facility in their area, which offered 20 more child care slots. It's a lot of money to put in there, but then if you do the math, that's $22,500 per individual slot for someone to receive services. A lot of folks have probably heard about Hormel in Austin, who made a really large investment of $5 million to build a new child care center that will offer up 130 slots. That sounds like a lot of people, and there's a lot of need there. But if you do the math, that's $38,500 per individual slot. These things are very expensive going in that route where they're waiting for an individual business to invest. If we take a look at Houston County, where you guys invested locally in the neighbors and the family providers and even the local centers, they're already established. So far, we have put $16,000 towards facility repair and supply costs that have preserved 121 child care slots. And we have been actively assisting a prospective child care provider that's planning on opening in July and bringing in 10 new slots. That's been about $4,000. If we crunch those numbers, we're averaging roughly $153 per slot. So while it's fantastic that these other large organizations have been willing to invest in their communities, we are looking at a powerful example of how cost effective it can be when local government takes local action to make a difference here. $153 per slots, much more affordable than 38,000 if you ask me. Um, that is investing in the people who are already here and already in that field. Also, by taking this approach, instead of opening a really large provider that's new to the area, we aren't necessarily fostering increased competition for our customers or increased competition for staff, which is another really tight area for them. The project you guys have authorized has other branches to help with that. Some of the things we've noticed, again, as I mentioned, investing locally has had a huge positive impact for providers and the families. I want to share one quick story that's got both some emotional pieces to it, but then some strong numbers. One provider woke up one morning and their water heater had broken in a way that shut water off to their whole facility. They reached out to us in a panic because they couldn't provide services that day. And through the swift response of the Houston County Child Care team, we were able to get somebody out there and replacing that and get that facility back up and operational. They were at a point where they said, we didn't have the money. We thought this was going to be the end of our childcare business because we couldn't afford that expense. Also, that kept 10 kids' families. So 10 families had parents that were still showing up to work that didn't have to take off time because their childcare provider was gone because the water heater had busted. I could tell you about how, the family was in tears, the providers were in tears about how this changed everything for them. But you also have to think about that many people whose work and industry were uninterrupted. And that was thanks to this program that you authorized. We still have more projects ahead of us as providers face a number of different barriers, and we're going to try and stay flexible with that. For example, there's been some licensing changes, and we have learned that people who become childcare providers do it because they love taking care of kids and helping the next generation grow and be healthy and successful. They don't necessarily do it because they absolutely love filling out online grant paperwork and forms. So we're going to be offering some supports and workshops to help them access the other resources available. Also, we know that there's going to be future grant opportunities coming out in a year or two, but we already have significant successes in Houston County based upon your investment that we're going to have a lot of chances to pull in funding from other sources so that what you started does not need you to keep fiscally maintaining it. You planted the seed, but we're going to be able to keep it growing for a long time off of other sources. So the facilities fund specifically, that portion of it was 60,000 over 3 years. We're right on track for the spending at the 40,000 after about a year. And like I mentioned, people are bragging about the other businesses where they're investing and the money they poured in there, but this has been so much more fiscally impactful. It's definitely worth bragging about as a community. The word has gotten out. I did want to toss out a little bit of a heads up. We've even had some other county commissioners start poking at how did they do that in Houston County? It's the word about the positive impact is getting out, and I know I'm hearing from a few other county commissioners. You guys might too. We do know that the state has put together a whole new department for the Office of Child Care Community Partnerships. It's fantastic. I know some of the people going in there, they're going to be great, but it's still a new branch of the state government or a new department there. Still a year or two out from deploying some of the programs that they're putting together. But again, the successes that have already been achieved in Houston County are going to put this community leagues ahead of the others when time comes to start applying for programs and supports. So that is my full presentation of info there. I'd like to open it up and say first, thank you to John and Allison. I see there none of this could have been achieved without their diligent work and coordination. And if any of you have any questions or concerns, feel free to pick my brain.
Maybe before we go to questions, I just wanted to add a couple of things. Our partnership with WDI has been really effective in this and approaching this from a training perspective. That's the business they're in. also recognizing this as an employment and training kind of opportunity. I really applaud the work that Allison and the Bluff Country Collaborative have done to highlight childcare as a viable and important career pathway. Part of it is helping existing providers, as Kyle has really done a fine job of outlining here. We're getting obviously a lot of bang for our buck there, but the other part is how do we encourage people to come into the field and stay in the field? A lot of times I like to say, you know, we can't fix all the challenges with this particular industry, but we can address some of them and make it comparatively easier to do childcare in Houston County, and thereby either retain or increase the number of childcare slots. One last thing I'd mention is the reference to slots. If you recall, when we did the presentation quite some time ago, we were in excess of 200 slots needed in Houston County for childcare, for people to be able to go to work. And so that was an assessment that was done by First Children's Finance and the partnership we've had with them. This has been a really fun project to be part of and successful. Lastly, I just also want to applaud the work of our current and past providers who've been engaged with our team and given us valuable insight as to the direction that we should go with this project. It's really a testament to kind of a cross-sectional community partnership and collaboration. So thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Alex.
Well, you make a good point, John. I think we need to retain what we have.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we're always we want new ones to come in to fill the slots, but we also want to help to retain what we have, and that's important.
Yeah, if we grow 10 and lose 15, kind of a losing gig. So we're trying to put cookies on all the shelves.
And just as a brief refresher, we were going to give Kyle a warm introduction. We did not.
Yeah.
Great presentation, but thank you for that. But just as a very quick refresher, so about 2 years ago, we got the grant with First Children's Finance. They came in and helped us establish the child care core team. That is when, like John said, we discovered we're short over 205 child care slots in the 0 to 5 age range. Our grant with First Children's Finance is sunsetting, but the Houston County core team's work will continue. And so we are still meeting monthly. We still have the partnership with WDI. And yes, our main goal is to support existing providers while also creating additional slots. And one really brief thing I want to touch on is 2 of our core team members. That's Jean Kinnenberg and Shelly Ellingson from the city of Caledonia. They, with help from the Ascentec Foundation, were able to give our providers some appreciation baskets, and they really appreciated those. So we've got the appreciation piece, the pipeline piece with Marianne Smith and the Bluff Country Collaborative, and then also the partnership with WDI with the grants and the training. So yeah, that's pretty much the full circle of it.
Well, as a commissioner, I commend all you guys for doing all your hard work and found through with this, and to you, Kyle. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you guys all. Good job.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have this labor negotiation closed session, but given the fact of our agenda, I was wondering if we could push that back to the end of the meeting. That's consensus to do that. Okay. We'll move on to consent agenda. We have 2 items pulled, actually 3 items pulled. 1 and 2 and 6. This 6 is that.
Action 6.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Action 6.
Action 6. No, so you didn't want to pull number 6 and Bryce help?
No, you're pulling this one. Number 6 action.
You're pulling that? You pulled that?
Yes, that's what I pulled. So it's not gonna have to be talked about today. I mean, that's you said.
So but also pulling 1 and 2 then.
Correct, that's table.
Okay, all right. So is there motion to approve the consent agenda? I'm sorry, I apologize. I was confused. I thought you meant action,
No.
consent item.
No, single action, so
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye,
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll move on to action items. Consider approving off-sale liquor license for Money Creek Haven, which will expire 6/30/2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the off-sale liquor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Action item number 2, consider approving or denying CUP for Peter Shufflebaum. I'm sorry, I might not got that right. And Kate Woodward, place a dwelling on less than 40 acres in Boca Township. Planning Commission recommended denial. Martin Herrick.
Yes, we've got. The planning commission recommended denial of the conditional use permit based on a number of items that they felt were not lining up in terms of where things are at. It is kind of unique set of circumstances. Normally the items that were brought up were items that would be considered in the variance part under the Board of Adjustment, not so much in the conditional use permit. You know, normally the conditional use permit was really brought up based on the situation that the existing trailer that was on the parcel had not been occupied for 8 of the last 10 years. So that was really the basis of where the conditional use permit was coming from in the first place. That was that part of it. As far as that goes. But in terms of the situation, we were certainly advocating a number of additional controls for the project in terms of the issue with the slope issue with using an engineering firm to basically design the structure that would be required prior to a building permit being issued. And one of the things we looked at is that what I told them is how would you would evaluate the slope is they run a model for a slope stability model. And I told them the factor of safety would have to be at least 1.3, which is not that's substantial. That's not, a small feat. And they certainly had done that as far as that goes. They also had done a survey identifying the site. Andy Lutchens put together a pretty nice map designating things. And then another thing that I've talked with a couple of commissioners about that gets very strange in this situation is that, and I talked with Peter about this early on, is that we're not sure exactly where the true slope was in the first place. Because one of the situations could well have been that, we looked at the aerial photos from the 1950s and stuff like that, and it was completely covered in trees. Then, in the 1970s, when the trailer was placed, one of the things that very likely happened, and we can't prove this one way or the other, is that bank might have been cut. And then what was cut in the bank was placed to level the parcel out a little bit to place the trailer. Pretty common activity. But what that also does is that changes the definition of the slope. That makes it tighter. And so that encroaches things, that doesn't give them as much margin. But what I told them when they came in, I said, I'm going to take a very conservative approach, the same way Aaron Locker did, that said, here's the line. So it's pretty tight. But if you were to, and again, I can't prove this, is that if you were to look at that with that softer slope and it didn't have that discernible definition, then the average out it likely wouldn't be to the level that it is. But I can't, show it one way or another on that. So it was like, well, and that was one of the things I was certainly looking at with the whole concept of the variances in the first place with the setbacks was this whole idea of where's actually the line. And it's like, we don't know and we can't prove it. I mean, we certainly looked at aerial photos, but boy, they're pretty tough, in terms of they don't really get to that level. And, contours and pictometry were definitely not to that point at the time to kind of get kind of an idea where things are at. So I think that's a factor. Another factor was that they did propose to reduce the size of the house initially. And again, these are more Board of Adjustment issues. These are not conditional use. Is that they did shrink the parcel. And as a result of that, they have a preliminary design for a septic system with a drain field, not a holding tank. And that was a concern for the Board of Adjustment as well. As far as the setback to the center line of the road, it's still there. There's a little bit of that. Realize that originally the trailer, when you think about the total length of the trailer, isn't substantially different than what's being proposed. What's occurring is the width, basically the relative to the road. So that's the situation that's going on there. But with all that said, the Planning Commission, gave their reasons and proposed to recommended denying the conditional use permit. So that's kind of where it's at.
Have all of the options been exhausted? Have they gone? Are there any? I know they reduced the size of the buildings and stuff. Is it pretty much everything been answered and answered in a way that, considers denial?
Well, I mean, I guess you could look at, I don't know, Peter, if you want to come up, I mean, could you shrink the building a little more?
So the question was everything to be exhausted? So it was reduced in size.
Yeah, all right, yeah, and it's.
And that's where I'm at.
So what was the reduction?
Well, the reduction was 1,300 square feet, correct?
1,300 square feet we took off. We have,
Well, I thought it was 4,900 to begin with, and now it's down to 4,000.
I think I had that wrong. It was 5,300.
Yeah.
5,300. Now it's down to 4,000.
Oh, because in the packet it said 4,900.
Right, and that was my understanding at the time, but when Peter's telling me
Yeah, it's-
5,300, I'm
it's
gonna
down.
believe him.
and the portion that's, to the furthest east of the property is the shop. And then the
Right.
house portion is gonna be further away from the bluff.
Right.
As well. And there's no, just to get this clarified, there's no basement. In this, it's a barn dominium. There's no basement, so we don't have to worry about any water erosion happening. We are doing wood walls.
I think to answer Dewey's question, and
Size has been reduced.
well, yeah, I mean, and to be able to potentially get away from the slope completely. In terms of if you didn't need that, now granted, those were addressed in the variances, they weren't addressed in the conditional use permit. If that's the concern, you would have to shrink farther, but even still, that slope probably would have existed with the trailer. In terms of the proximity of that is, but that's where we came back with and said, well, have an engineer design a system and sign off on it. As far as, taking the responsibility for the slope.
So sorry.
Go ahead.
Let me get some understanding here. So the first variance hearing, the request was for if I read the packet right, and I watched the meetings too, for 4,900 square feet. That's not right?
At this point, it's 4,000 square feet.
No, I'm asking the first variance.
Yes, it was bigger, yes.
It was 4,900.
Right.
But it's actually 5,300. That was.
The original, okay,
Yeah.
So-
Additional plan.
the original, for some reason, I had it at 4,900. Peter said it's 5,300, I'll believe him. when I looked at the map, maybe my math was wrong. And then in the second one, they came in with the reduced. So,
Now we're done.
Right, but the first one you came in with the wrong number with 5,300. Or 4,900 when it should have been actually 5,300.
yes,
Okay.
I got one question. Why weren't these people informed of our ordinances before they even started this? We have an ordinance that says you gotta be 25 feet from the toe of the hill and you cannot dig into the bank. Why weren't they informed of that?
the discussion came in. And, they wanted it, and I'm like, I made it pretty clear to them that some of these are gonna take pretty substantial variances to do that. And so it was the whole thing. I mean, the issue of digging into the hill. It's interesting. I sent you the packet that Amelia's research on this that addressed some of this. It's filling in the hill. The language is very clear. Digging in the hill isn't as clear. And then, like, as I alluded to, you still get back to this question of where actually is the hill. And so it gets,
It really don't matter where the hill is, because the ordinance says you can't dig into the hill.
well, it's the definition of where the hill is where the slope starts.
But you just stated that the definition of digging into the hill is it grade?
Well, I mean, I sent you the stuff
I
that,
saw that.
okay,
It
yeah,
says You
and
cannot approach 25 feet.
there is that, and then, so then we went with the setback issue. So,
And the soil and water was against this. I would take it Jerry Wilkie's on the board of soil and water and they're all against it.
I
That's,
would not say they were against it, Greg. I'd say they had concerns,
Yeah.
correct?
I had concerns.
yes, I mean, they submitted comments, yes.
Bob, you had a question?
Well, I got a bunch of questions.
Okay.
First off, was the number one question is what was denied. Everything else on all the
The
questions.
first finding.
The first finding,
Was the denial. Everything else was approved.
correct.
So from a variances point of view, have there been any variances granted?
Yes,
So the variances for the setback is granted?
there's a setback from the center line of the road, from the back of the property, and to encroach into the 25-foot setback for the toe of the slope.
So those variances have been approved.
They've been issued by the Board of Adjustment, yes.
And there's a good well on the property already. The septic system, by the change in size of the structure, it can now have an acceptable septic system as far as that.
It'll be a drain field versus instead of,
Correct,
the first proposal was a mound system.
right. Well, a mound that with a type 4 that would treat and load a lot of water directly up against the foundation. And it was like, that's a very bad idea. So this is it may be a mound, this will still be a mound, but the water distribution is gonna not be near the building, and it will discharge in a much better location.
And they have an engineer's design for the digging into the bank and the retaining wall.
They're gonna be
As far as the security and the safety.
They don't have a design yet.
Yeah,
They're
they-
required to get.
Okay.
They'll be
But it
required,
isn't done yet.
right,
no, we required,
It's required to have.
right,
it.
right.
I've been
Prior to
working
that.
with the landscape company
And that would approve.
does that.
Well, it's part of the requirement.
It's a condition.
It's a condition, yes,
Thank you.
right.
And then there's no other residential property on that quarter court.
Correct.
The whole quarter doesn't have another house.
It,
He owns the 25 plus the 1.3.
it abides by the quarter rule but they need a conditional use permit because it's less than 40 acres.
Right.
It's
Right.
25, I believe, right?
Plus the 1.38.
Right, it's a little more than that.
Right.
That's fine. So I saw one letter in there from the Baumgartners as far as saying they don't have a problem.
They're the closest neighbor, I believe.
Not quite.
The Jarvis's.
Or
But is there any complaints, any letters or communications against it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Andy Welke didn't like it, Jerry Welke didn't like it, and Peterson's didn't like it.
That's
Dave,
what,
Dave Peterson.
Because he said, what if I want to get a conditional use permit someday for building on that corridor? That was his reason.
well, first come, first serve, I guess, as far as that's.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I was just in general. but,
Yeah.
right.
But he has the right to try to protect that too, I guess.
Sure.
That's why he made a comment.
But those are all just verbal comments. We don't-
There was a written comment from Andy Welke. There was a comment from Jerry Welke. And then I think they're in the board.
I
package.
didn't-
Was
I
there a
didn't
written
see that.
comment from Dave Peterson? I didn't see.
No. His was a phone call. Well, here's where realize the comments that I'm there in terms of comments on the conditional use permit. No. There were no comments on that. These comments were for the variance,
But the variances have all been approved.
correct?
And then this is per these ordinances considered a buildable
It-
size wise and
It-
no.
It's extremely, it basically rounds up. It's 0.89, something like that. If you make a map and plot it out, and granted, my scale was not super accurate, that if you made a bigger map, you could get a tighter scale. I believe you could draw it to get to exactly to 0.9.
The size. So to be a buildable lot. it has to be
10%
point-
credit for slope.
I get the 10% part, but you just said that it was 8.9.
No, 0.89, something like that, that would round to 9.9.
Oh. But that doesn't make 10. I mean,
I
that
mean,
doesn't
you
get into 10%.
The ordinance says you gotta have an acre.
So you're rounding up from 8.99 to 10 to 0.9.
The 1 acre is the definition of buildable lot.
I know, I get that.
And then you apply the 10%, which would pull you down to 0.9 acres,
Because of the slopes.
Yeah,
okay? And then in terms of mapping it out, and how I came up with the mapping that out, is it adds up. Again, this is my interpretation of the drawing, and theirs would be different with different people. Mine comes up to be 0.89 something in terms of what that amount would be. So,
okay, so it's 8 that doesn't,
Still don't make nine.
it don't make 9.
What do you make nine?
0.9.
Come on.
That's.
in terms of, there is also some discussion in terms of significant figures on how far you round in the ordinance as well.
It's really close to the point.
Well, and you see, and the thing about drawing the map is, if you make a bigger map, you can have a tighter scale. And by the time you trace around those areas and you account for that, I believe a better map could make the 0.9.
Or
You believe, so.
Well, I mean, if you make it larger, then you're gonna have a tighter control over the area within the map.
Franklin Hahn, you're the chairman of the Board of Adjustment.
Wait a minute, Greg. Bob isn't done with his
Oh,
question.
sorry.
So. All the variances are approved. It's a question of whether the conditional use permit is approved.
Correct.
Zoning sent it back denied based on the comprehensive land use plan, which says, and I assume it's policy 1 that we're talking about, protect and preserve prime agricultural land throughout the county by limiting development in agricultural areas. Is that the line item that?
That was, that's the line item, but the ordinance says below it. That's what we went off,
The ordinance,
that they have. You have to stay 25 feet away. We passed a couple other houses with that same 25 feet, you can't touch the hill. We've done that before. But now all of a sudden, we're gonna tear into the hill. We don't understand it. And then we're gonna break our ordinance.
Well, people will cut into the hills for various reasons. I mean, hills have been cut before.
Yeah, but it's a large enough area to build a house too. This isn't.
But it's okay to cut into the hill, but you got a big area. But to accommodate a smaller area, it's not okay to cut it.
Well, we're not talking a couple of feet. They're talking 15 feet cutting into this mountain. Have you been down there and looked at this?
I've only looked at it from the road. I haven't gone on.
We should go in there and look at it because the hillside, they're coming down from all the wet weather. They're starting to wash down already. And you wanna dig 25 feet into that or 15 feet? You know what kind of mess you're gonna have?
Well, that's why the retaining wall is gonna have an engineer's design.
Yeah, but a 7-foot retaining wall gonna hold back that hill? Look at the hill.
How far are we going to dig into the bluff?
It's gonna be like a total of, the retaining wall is 7 feet tall.
Right, but how
And
far
it'll
do you
give us
gotta
about-
dig?
It'll give us about 10 to 12 feet.
So you're gonna dig in 12 feet to put up the 7-foot retaining wall. To accommodate your width of your home.
Just the
And the width is what, 40
Well, the width of the garage,
40 by 90? So it's 90 long, 40 wide. I mean, the reduction in 5,300 to 4,000 wasn't width, it was it length or what was it?
length. Yeah,
Length.
and width.
And width, so what was the original?
It was
width?
original 40 by 60, 40 by 60
No.
shop.
50 by 50
Oh, yeah, yeah. 50 by 50.
and 40 by 60.
Okay, all right,
which that's where I got my 4,900, but. You know, because that's 2,500 and
Well, to start.
2,400.
Now it's 40 by,
90.
it's not 4,000 square. Feet. It's 30.
So
We're not talking 4,000 square feet then.
the shop portion is 50 feet long, and 40 feet wide. The house is 40 feet by 50.
That's 4,000.
it's 4,000 square feet
Total.
total.
And the reason for the shop is that we have a large camper. that we-
Where'd 90 come from?
That's the length.
The total length.
So 50
You can't say 40 by 50, 40 by 50 and tell me it's 90.
Oh, no,
It's current.
So it's, right,
there's
part of it's.
common wall. They're hooked together.
Yeah, it's one.
I understand.
one structure.
Okay.
If one is 40 by 50 and one is 40 by 50. It's either 80. I guess 40 and 50 is.
Yeah, it's
90.
current.
It's
I
current.
see that.
The house is turned this way.
There's gonna be an angle.
I shot all, yeah.
I think what Greg's referring to on bluff land protection ordinance 2917 subdivision 2 setback from toe of bluff structure shall be set back 40 feet from the top of the bluff and 25 feet from the toe of the bluff. Is that what you're referring to, Greg? But like Bob has pointed out, they received a variance from that toe of the bluff setback.
Correct.
They can give them a variance for how close they can go, but they cannot give them a variance to dig into the hill.
That variance was bad.
But I want the board adjustment to speak very clearly.
Do we have a couple questions?
Back when the first trailer was put there, did they need a CUP back then?
They had a permit.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd call it a permit.
We had a copy of it in our pack.
It was about 1978, maybe.
And I was just gonna make a comment, as far as type of retaining walls, we've seen them built very well. MnDOT down along Highway 1626 interstate, when they rebuilt that. We see them in La Crescent, where they have some big retaining walls that can be built. It's if engineered, I mean, the engineer has to design it and make sure it's done correctly. I usually go along pretty well with the planning commission, but I see an opportunity here to improve it, but that's my thoughts.
Have you looked at it, Dewey?
Yes, and it's pretty flat. I did not go off the highway. I looked at it from the road. Looking back towards what I call Hoka edge there northeast. I can see where the wall or the bluff has to be cut into. I shouldn't say bluff, but the hill. In order to get as big as they're showing here on the maps. So I did go see them.
Here's a couple questions.
Bob?
So on the retaining wall that they're gonna require that passed,
Mhm.
who's your engineer?
My contractor one of my customers, Cyrus Lawn Landscape out of Winona. And Cochran, they are working with a firm in Rochester.
So once they have that completed, that comes back to you, Martin?
Yes.
You have to approve, and does soil and water and river and all them?
They
have the
typically,
Opportunity to look that over.
they're certainly more than welcome,
Scrutinize it?
they're certainly welcome to look at it.
Welcome to, or they get it.
I mean, they're not an obligation for them to necessarily look at that.
So how do we ensure that it's a quality? You know,
Well-
not trying to be.
No, that's-
No, no, no.
Also to look out for your interest of the
Yeah.
home that you're building. How do we know that
I
that's
mean, for
up
what,
to
it-
code?
for what it's worth, in my previous position, I am actually a geotechnical engineer. And in terms of like evaluating slope stability models, I've done that for 30 years. But I will gladly take the soil and waters input too. That's where I came up with the factor of safety of 1.3.
So
Is-
that's a yes to Bob's question about soil and water being able to review it.
But I mean, we haven't made that discussion. I will gladly take their input on.
I think you almost have to.
Yeah,
in this
sure.
case.
I would strongly suggest that.
Yes. In terms of the model, I know the model that they're going to run. It's called Stable, STABL. It's from Purdue. And what the factor of safety will be and how they'll lay out the coordinates, how they'll identify the strength characteristics. And the basically the design that will be done for it. It's basically summing up the forces pushing down the hill versus the toe of the slope is buttressing the bottom to keep it from
Yeah,
moving.
I understand that part. I'm more
Okay.
interested in the liability and the checks
Sure.
and balances of where it goes from here.
Because there is a safety issue.
Mhm.
I mean. When you talk about digging into the total bluff,
Yes.
cleaning up the retaining wall.
Mhm.
You know, there is fail rates on those,
Mhm.
so. I think it's be advised to have soil and waters input along with. The experts,
Absolutely.
And you're willing to work with.
while they're required as a condition.
But it goes back to Martin though.
So Pete,
Yes,
this is gonna be an expensive project. And I'm just throwing
I'm
this
well
out
aware. It's already expensive.
with all the engineering and stuff. Have you ever considered to try to downsize it some more so you wouldn't have to do all that
Well,
to make it work?
we have. Together, we have 4 children.
Yep.
That we need to lay in bed. And. You know, the house structure is 2,000 square feet. The shop structure is 2,000 square feet, okay? So. The shop structure is big because we have a camper we want to put in there, so it's not sitting out in the weather. Out in the yard, out in the elements, as you probably saw it out there. And we don't have, that way we don't have to pay for storage in the winter time. And then our vehicles as well.
So which structure is closer to the bluff?
The shop,
The shop,
the shop.
the house would be on the other side.
House is on the other side. But that actually has the 25-foot clearance from the retaining wall plus stuff.
So why couldn't you build a smaller house in there and then put your camper under like make a little shelter or something for your camper? That way you wouldn't have to be digging into the bank.
I like things neat and clean. I don't know, that's just my thoughts.
You wouldn't have to build a house now, you could. Build the shop.
Shops. I mean, it still needs the retaining wall. I don't, maybe, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw behind the trailer, but it has washed out a little bit back there.
I saw that.
So it does need a retaining wall. I mean, it's,
I did go out and look at the site. I mean,
yeah,
I see both sides of this. But when I went and looked at the site, I thought, oh, that is a tight fit. That's, you're trying to put something.
And we're 14 in a size 8.
I was just also gonna note that, protecting prime farmland, as we look at this piece of property, each one case by case. It's not really prime farmland, right?
That's not the issue.
So,
The farmland part is not the issue. Yeah, it's the toe of the bluff is the issue.
and I will make sure it's safe. Obviously, I want it to be safe because I have my children, my family. Why wouldn't I want it to be safe? I'm not gonna put them in harm's way. I'm not gonna go tell them to go play in the middle of the street. That's not my job as a parent.
We're not doubting that.
Just, I'm taking all ends of this one.
Yeah.
I thought this through many, many times.
Anybody got questions? We can hear from the Board of Adjustment.
Well, is there anybody else that would like to make a comment? Well, no, I'm just asking.
from the audience.
Anybody else, any other commissioners have any questions?
Well, I'd like to hear from the Board of Adjustment. Franklin, would you and Wayne?
First meeting we had, we both were discussing that 9/10 of an acre. I quizzed Martin on that very thoroughly. Didn't you want to pay? And my question to him was, so they take the 10%, we got 9/10 of an acre, now I sit here, and I heard the state paid 8.9. When you watch the tape, I said the very same thing. Well, this one here is 9/10, and then the next one we get comes up to us, it's 8.9, and the next one's 8.75, or we stop. We got an ordinance we follow it. The reason that it was a very tough decision was because for the variance was because of the. I did that, I was there quite for the first meeting. And then before the second meeting, I looked at that block was off in the dirt. Now water comes down against that wall. Heaven help that poor guy that lives over there. Out right over. And Steve Long, the slow both ways and he hits that wall. Water always runs down here. It's when you shoot right down. It shoots the other way. Back in 2013, was the whole front of the yard. Came down that ravine. If you're standing in the road, you're facing the walk, the ravine to the right. I don't know my record. But that's the reason that what my first thing was opposed to it. I'm only one on the board. Thing that you mentioned have to consider here, in my opinion, is where you're gonna go. If you allow, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, if you allow, you can start digging in the hill. You're gonna open again, in my opinion. Where you're gonna stop. The boards aren't gonna be able to deny it because they're gonna say, well, we approved it once, so we just have to keep going.
Thank you.
Any questions for Franklin?
Cindy,
I have a comment, this Cindy Wright, Chair of the Planning Committee. We discussed it, several of us attended the first meeting, the adjustments, and listened to all the discussion, so it's very helpful. One thing I would say is, we were really stuck on, that group was really stuck on that first one. And I think the rest of it, all the rest of the findings kind of fell into place. one of the things that, continually occurs to me is that we have followed. I think when you make a decision to approve of the, continuous use permit, you make sure that it's actually followed through, because there has been examples where it's, we have slope runoff. I have a property that is very similar to this, that a house was built on in a garage that, a four-stall garage and a carport that backs the slope 55 years ago. Nothing has really changed, but it does take maintenance and it does take engineering. So if it's done right, and if it's followed through as far as each step of the way, is it being done right? And then you do the prevention as much as you can for erosion and, any of that runoff. It's a possibility, but it takes a lot of work. So it's, it's nicer if we can have, be approached with these situations where it's an easier build, safer environment. But there are occasions where I think we can look at that if somebody, somebody is really interested in it. And making sure that they do it right, because otherwise it could be a disaster. And it's not just this situation, I'm talking about in general, when we look at.
Well, you make a key point on the follow through part. If this CUP were to be approved, we need to have follow through to make sure the engineering is completed correctly and everything's done correctly.
And that's an acceptable requirement that can be added on.
Yeah, and as built, absolutely.
I mean, Franklin, you had a question?
Well, my question would be. My question is, in the future, then, what if the commissioners do this, approve this, and they're right? Then we sitting on the board, both about sitting on the board, and we should just go ahead and approve all of this stuff. As long as it's engineered right, even though it goes against the ordinance. I guess that's what I'm in.
Those are the discussions and debates you need to have at the hearing, and I know it looks convoluted, but you had the debate. I have a problem with the fact that the first variance was tabled because it was tabled by a member of the board that realized that it wasn't going to pass, and he wanted to pass it, so he had it tabled and to look at it further and see if find a way to make it go through. I question that. I know supposedly you can do that, but I just question why that was done. It doesn't look good. I think you should follow through with the findings, but that was what happened. So but at the end of the day, you had a second hearing, and it was approved. There lies the situation.
Sometimes you just need to get more information, and as I've been hearing here, all other variances were okay. That's the only
The
thing.
findings,
The findings, the findings are all approved. Only thing we're talking about now is the CUP. Correct?
And it has been brought to us as a recommendation for denial from the planning commission as it stands.
Right.
And that was a 4-3 vote, if I remember.
4-3 vote for denial.
One more. That here, when we had our township association local meeting, one of the things was brought to Greg and I was, a little bit more information or more involvement from the township. What did Boca Township, what was their opinion?
Jim Weezer and I went to the township meeting.
I think you need to back up. What was the first? For the variance hearing? Is that what you're getting?
Both, yeah.
Yep. What was the Boca Township's concern?
They basically their concerns were the issue with the slope and the setbacks. Was that what they sent their comments for the first variance hearing? Yes.
And what was the outcome from that?
Is that they were given that, then I mean, the outcome of that was is we read those comments at the variance hearing. And there was discussion on it
That was the first time.
the first time, correct?
Then we went to the board, local board,
You folks went to
We went to
the.
the second one.
and answered all their questions.
On the second board meeting. And myself and Jim Weezer also went to that.
So the first meeting they had concerns, second meeting, no concerns? or
The second meeting,
changed their
they
mind, or
felt they
what?
had been adequately resolved, I guess would be about how I would phrase it.
And I would argue they didn't have any information in the first meeting. They just had the singular piece of paper they got in the mail with none of the packet. And none of us to be able to answer any questions.
So their opinion on what's being brought forward now after both of the meetings is what? Give us a.
They have no objections.
They have no objection?
Well, if everything's, if the engineer report works and that part, yeah.
He's got his hand up again.
Franklin?
What, the township, one of the officers told me on the township, but I asked him why it didn't. They said after the presentation, what they told me was. You can follow the ordinance. Put that house in there.
Follow the
Wanted to
ordinance.
clarify. Well, was not it, and down to the meeting, so. But this board, this is.
Well,
But the consensus of the entire board, Martin, was what?
That they had no objection, basically, or,
That come directly from the board.
yeah,
Yes.
it'd have been nice to have that
in writing.
in writing for the packet. But, well, I'm conflicted because of the numbers that are being thrown out here. The 10% rule. Where it says you have 0.9, you're okay, but now I'm hearing it's 8.9 something. And then the fact that the square footage was 5,300 actually was, but in the packets it says 4,900 and now it's down to 4,000, so. I mean, that probably isn't such a big deal, but that's a more significant reduction from. I mean, when I was looking at that, that's only 900 square feet. It's actually more than that from what I'm hearing.
From the original. Plan that we had talked.
Right. So. Well, it's up for consider approving or denying.
What? Tell me the variances from last time.
Okay. There's a variance from the center line of the road to the structure, which is, I'd have to look it up. I think it's 12.5 feet. There's from the
53 feet.
right versus 65, which is the requirement on that. And then there's from the back of the property, which would be to the north. There's that it requires a 50-foot setback and they cannot meet that setback. And so there's that, and then there's,
How much is the variance for that?
I'd have to,
Less than 10.
Less than 10 feet.
Mhm.
Instead of 50, it's
42.
40 plus.
Right. And then the last one is for the 25-foot encroachment into the cove.
How much is that?
That's, I think, 12.
12 feet.
Closer to the 20, to the 20.
No, I'm sorry, it's 22. It's
It's 22 feet.
basically, yeah, I think that was
Yeah.
I'd have to dig it up.
Yeah.
I think it's 22.
We have an ordinance, your well has to be 50 feet from the structure?
No,
Yeah, I think it's pretty tight. It's
3 feet.
it's not,
You're gonna have-
Septic has to be 50 feet away.
From the well.
The well, if it's under 50 feet deep.
in my house, when I built it, had to be 50 feet from the well.
No,
They
3 feet.
changed that law. When did that get changed?
I don't know, that's what it is. 3
it's
feet.
the septic setback to the well.
I'm
is
not
what-
talking septic, I'm talking well.
Well, the well is there. You're not getting drilling a new well, right?
No,
So,
And,
so
and it's a 270, 200
26 feet deep.
feet. Maybe that's for the well.
It was built, it was drilled in 1936.
so
The well can be close to the house. It's the distance from the well to the septic.
and that is what, 50 feet?
Well, actually, it can be closer than that.
It
because it's
varies,
Under 50 feet.
right, there,
Depending on the depth of the
Depth of the well.
well, the casing,
The casing. of the well.
you have 150-foot standard. If you're greater than 150 foot of casing, you're allowed to be closer.
So what's the casing length on that well?
276.
So it's cased all the way down.
Yeah.
All right,
Have a printout of it as well.
okay.
From. The well guy is, oh, no, Ross, sorry.
Wayne, you have the question?
Yeah, my name is Wayne Remington, and I'm from the Board of Adjustment. And I looked at this piece and I have nothing against you guys, but that's a tight fit all the way around. And anything besides that house, are you gonna have a picnic table? Are you gonna have a clothesline? Are you gonna have a garden shed? And is that gonna be closer to the road? Because it's already too close to the road. That's my thought.
Board of Adjustment did grant the variances.
So the original, the first meeting of the variant, Board of Adjustment. The setbacks were such.
Mhm.
The second variance hearing. The setbacks really didn't change. Did they, as far as ask for width? Measurement,
There was the setback from the road, I think is the
only
same.
thing that changed in this from the first and the second is the footage, square footage. The variance setbacks were the same.
There was potential for a setback also for a septic. And in the,
From the first one,
from the first one,
okay,
and that one was
Got
eliminated in the second.
okay.
because of the size of the house.
Right, there was no room left for a conventional system.
Where we at?
Any other questions? So what does the board feel about approving or denying the CUP, which the planning commission recommended for approval?
Deny.
Oh, I'm sorry, for denial. Jeez. Get that
I know
right.
there's a lot of confusion here, and I think to get things, we've heard a lot of debate, a lot of discussion. Being that there's been variances granted by both Board of Adjustment and Planning Commission. The only hiccup is in this here retaining wall and so on. I move to approve the CUP as presented
With conditions.
with the conditions of engineering and all the things to make sure it's safe for
Okay.
future.
You would state it as engineer shall supply an as-built
Yes,
of this system. Okay,
Would you want to add in there that with the soil and water
oh, but yeah,
review,
right,
and
river soil and water review?
review, sure, yes.
So a motion's been made. Is there a second?
With the additions of the restrictions from soil and water and all of that.
Motion's been seconded. Any further discussion?
Restrictions.
Is there any further discussion?
That's the way vote by roll.
Yeah, we vote by roll, please.
District 1,
yes,
District 2,
No.
District 3,
Based on the variances, the well and the septic. I'll vote yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Nope. CUP has been granted.
nobody's got to get a permit anymore, the way it looks.
That part hasn't changed,
That hasn't
Greg.
changed.
That hasn't changed.
We're so far away. Okay, we're moving on.
They're gonna get a permit. If they, well, okay, if the engineer does, the engineer can't meet the 1.3, they don't get the permit.
Right,
So-
it does.
It's not
CUP
done.
hasn't officially been granted until they get engineered
It was
approval. I should
And-
restate.
And
I'm on point.
and soil and water.
Got some work in front of me.
Yep.
Yes,
I
a lot,
I had a lot of work.
a lot of. Work.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, sorry.
All right, moving on to action item number 3. Consider approving or denying the CUP for Spiker Family Revocable Trust for land altercation of 5,000 or more square feet yards to install a driveway in La Crescent Township. Martin.
What this was is we responded to a complaint for substantial land alteration for a parcel of land that what the owners did is they put the road in prior to building the house, which created a lot of confusion with the neighbors. We got some complaints on, are they putting in a subdevelopment? What are they doing? Ultimately, the Spiker family sent a letter saying this is not what we're doing. We're building just in the long term, maybe 5 to 7 years out, putting a house in the back of the property. But they did not, through their contractor, Travis Sankey, they did not come in for a land alteration permit in advance of the work. So following up on the site, I went out and measured it. It sure looked like it was over 5,000 yards. I asked Dave Walters to go out and check it. He went out and measured it. He got it over 5,000 yards. And I told him they need a CUP for substantial land alteration, because in the ag protection district, it's 5,000 yards is the minimum. Or if you exceed that, then you need the conditional use permit.
It's always been a standing rule.
And so Travis Zanke's response was, we'll certainly fill out their paperwork and do all that. He also stated that he thought that the dirt that he had previously removed did not be included in that alteration volume calculation. And that probably would have made the difference to not account for part of it, that he didn't need the permit if that would have been the case. So with that, he certainly came in, he paid the fee. The planning commission decided to not require the after the fact double the charge, basically the extra $1,400.
See, I have a problem with that. So this is after the fact permit,
Yes, it is.
and it's in our rule that if you need to come in and do an after the fact permit, the fee is tripled. So
Right.
why would we forgive that? I mean, how's that gives away our teeth? I mean. That goes against our ordinances too. I mean, it's triple the fee for after the fact variances.
Water and soil and water helped them design the road. Soil and water was all in on it. I mean, he wasn't hiding nothing. And the one that has the land at the end of the road wants to build a house in 3 to 5 years. He didn't know he had
I
to
get all that, but you needed to get a permit to do the work, right?
Well, apparently he didn't check into it, or he didn't go get it. He wasn't planning on building a house right now. He was thinking about 5 years down the road.
But he didn't get his permit for a land altercation of 5,000 or more yards, so.
Or did you say?
I get that he feels apologetic about it, but I mean, that. The fact that the triple the fee is. Forgiven, that happens all the time, way too many times, that's not
So we
right.
knew about the total square yards, but you didn't think that you would meet that.
Well, okay, he ended up being like about 6,700 cubic yards of total for the project, I think. And if he would have subtracted off the soil that he had removed, he felt that somehow that would not be part of the calculation. So if he was below the 5,000 cubic yards, that he would not have been required to get a permit.
So he didn't think he needed one, he thought he was.
Right, right.
Because he thought removal wasn't part of the 5,000 yards. If
It's
I take off 4,000 yards and bring in 2,000 yards, that's only 2,000 yards, not 4,000, not 6.
Depending on how you want to do your math, but I mean, it's still alteration and alteration is everything.
Moving it from here to here.
Right.
Walter.
I guess we're at a discussion of approving the CUP. And then another slash is the triple fine. This is two issues here now, so. But nope. Do we have to set the fee today? I mean,
I know the fee's been,
The planning,
The only thing I see in front of us is the CUP.
right,
right, the fee isn't in front of us, it's just a CUP.
right.
So there's not much of a discussion.
So the discussion is what kind of fee should we,
No,
No,
the discussion is on approving the CUP.
okay. Strictly the CUP?
And the driveway's in, correct?
Correct.
Looks like it's in.
Yeah, I got a camper back there. That's
And
it.
they have, the vegetation is established and
Grass is growing, corn is growing.
We looked at the soil and water to make sure the brakes and all the water was running the right way. I mean, they're not hiding nothing here.
Planning
it,
Commission recommended approval.
Who decided that the damages should be forgiven? Who made that ultimate decision? You?
no, I mean,
Board of-
the planning
Planning
commission
commission approved it.
with that.
So to use your logic, Greg, if we're gonna forgive, we might as well throw out the triple damages thing.
Well, I mean, we're not following any of our ordinances and now all of a sudden we're gonna find people for a mistake that was very easily done.
But that's in our ordinance.
That's right.
So,
Triple fine,
so
so
they're trying to-
triple fine him, but then you better deny that guy's permit.
well, that's not how it works.
Well, it's ordinances. If we're not gonna follow ordinances, why get?
Well, triple the fee is in our ordinance, Greg. I mean, you get an after the fact permit, the fee is tripled for people. That's for everything.
Well, we've done it before for other ones.
Yeah, and it happens way too many times and people are just saying, oh, hell, I'll get
Go ahead and do it.
I'll get it done and get it forgiven and no big deal.
The action item is to consider approving or denying the CUP. I don't
Correct.
see anything on it. With that being said, I make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second it.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right,
Aye. Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. With one opposed.
Commissioner Burns, you voted no.
Yes,
That's correct.
I should did roll call.
Okay.
Oh, well. Number 4, let's see. Consider approving or denying a CUP for Wayne Feldmeyer to build a cabin in an ag district in Houston Township. Martin,
Yeah, Wayne is proposing a cabin. It's about 392 square feet. It's under the 400 square foot. It would have no septic, no water. It's on skids. It'll be brought in. It's right off of Highway 16. He has a spot. It's about 670 feet from the closest neighbor. The neighbor did comment that he had no objection to the project. As far as that goes, because other than that, there weren't too many other, there was no other comments other than Troy Bartelt, I believe is the neighbor's name. As far as that goes.
No opposition.
yeah, it's gonna be one of those pre-built cabins that he's just gonna move in.
Yeah,
Some Amish guy's building it and dropping it off, reloading it.
it's the Amish guy up by Utica that does.
No water, no sewer, no-
Is there a,
Is it called Amish guy construction then?
Well,
So-
actually, yeah, well, no, he's on the road to Utica. I'm trying to think of his name. I've actually used him personally for a project.
They build cabins.
that doesn't matter to
Yeah.
us, so
Sure.
Well,
He's a business that does that. work,
That-
Yes.
that point doesn't matter to us, so.
I'll make a motion to approve a CUP for Wayne Feldmeyer.
Okay,
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Do we need roll call? If not, is there a motion to, is there, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Number 5, consider approving or denying CUP for affordable investments, Kenneth Johnson for multi-use event and money and space in Money Creek Township.
What he's doing is converting an existing ag building over to be for a wedding venue. He is proposing to bring in, he's going to update the building to the point of being ADA requirements for access, those things of those nature. The site has pretty good approach. It's not too bad. He has about over an acre available for parking. He's proposing a row of trees around the perimeter. So he will be blocking out from the neighbors as far as that goes. It sounds like he'll probably be pretty busy as far as in terms of getting the number of, apparently these events do get used every weekend quite a bit. One of the things he did say is his goal was to be pretty reasonable on his prices. That, you know, so I think it's gonna be kind of rustic, but I think he's certainly gonna have driveways and access to allow for handicap type situations and things of that nature.
Well, I think that's their motto, given that they're affordable investments, they try to make things affordable.
And he will bring in, he is proposing and he's working on this, a septic system that's gonna be large enough to handle the surge. He's putting in up to 6,000 gallons of capacity for septic.
Mhm.
As far as that goes.
So basically, this is a change of use, conditional use permit for a wedding venue location. I think it's a good idea. It'd be a good addition to Money Creek. So,
Don't have to do anything about zoning. I mean, it's okay on an ag parcel.
Yeah, it's the other category for under a conditional use. Yeah.
right. Is
I'll make
there
a motion to approve it.
motion's been made to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. CUP granted.
Right.
All right, move on to number 6, which has been pulled, correct? Number 7, consider reviewing and approving payments. Carol, I guess everybody's seen the list of what needs to be paid. Is there any questions on that? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion's been made and second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Action item number 8, accept the resignation of myself or Personnel Committee and to reappoint another commissioner.
Why are you resigning?
It's gotten to the point where working with HR, I've been asking questions. Ever since I've been a commissioner, I've been asking for a hiring policy, a standardized hiring policy for us to review and to look at. It has not been done. And an employee handbook, our personnel department would like to have an employee handbook for when it is asked that they would have one, and that's not getting done. And as of late, there's been some non-communication. And when I try to hold HR accountable, I get accused of workplace harassment. So it's to the point where I cannot deal with this anymore. So I wish to get off personnel and have someone else deal with it. I mean, I've brought this up several times and nothing gets done.
Well, we need to take a look at our HR. I'm sorry, but she's not getting the job done, so.
This is just my, this isn't anything, this is just my dealings with HR. It isn't an official complaint to HR. It's just what I'm feeling, so. And it's what I've been dealing with, so. So I would like to get off and reappoint another commissioner. Because we are in middle of labor negotiations.
Is it time?
And we need to have that position filled. So any one of you guys, Dewey is already on there, so it's up to the other three to take over.
Well, it's been said that I have a conflict because my son works for the county and is one of the stewards for the 49ers, so.
We got a meeting with them at 11:30.
So. Guess I withdraw my name from consideration.
Or Greg,
Yeah, I was on it before.
I think you're gonna need someone that's been on it before, especially if you're in the middle of negotiation. You won't reconsider?
No, I'm at my wit's end.
You need a motion? Separate.
I do.
Guess I'd make a motion to accept it and also include in that motion to appoint Greg on there being he's done it in the past and especially being we're in the middle of negotiations.
Motion's been made to accept my resignation and to appoint Greg. Is there a second to that motion? You're not comfortable.
Made my motion.
He made his
Wait a
motion.
second, okay, I gotta wait for a second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed with same sign. All right. So Greg, you're back on personnel.
Thank you very much.
11:30.
Payback to hell, boys.
All right, we're moving on to discussion items.
We're gonna go to the closed session.
Oh, yes, well, I guess we could,
do.
you want to do that?
Discussion, Bert? Okay.
Well, I was gonna do everything right away, so then we can. Yep. As far as my updates, I have extension meeting coming up. I understand, I know, Bob, you went to the District 9 meeting yesterday. Our extension contract is going to increase 15%, that's the number. So I have a meeting coming up with extension, also a water plan meeting coming up. That's about all I got. Dewey?
Not much, of course, we were all at the Mabel last week after the regular board meeting with the public health, Fillmore County joint. And we heard what's going on there. At noon today, I have the local public health community meeting, and then next Monday, I have Winlac, Winona. And see another one coming up next week, next Wednesday. About the extent of it.
On the joint board of health, you know, I wanted to ask Julie and Bob, because you guys are on this community service building committee. I get a little bit of the impression that there's been some discussion with the state and the possibility of looking at getting out of the joint board of health and separating. Has that been discussed?
There's been counties that have done that. We haven't actually talked about doing it and separating from Fillmore.
Right.
We've talked about other counties that have done it, but we haven't talked about doing it ourselves.
So it's been discussed at your committee meetings?
It's come up, but nothing concrete. It's one the confusion, I shouldn't say confusion, sometimes. When they are the bookkeeper for the year and then we take over the accounting for a year.
Switch off.
And then sometimes things are difficult to keep it within our county, because they would like to keep it over there, so. It was just kind of the rub at times of taking funds or using funds that we could utilize here. The drawback is we may not get as much as we normally would. That's the drawback. I checked with, up in the city's public health department. I said, well, what if we split? Well, then you just don't get half here and half here. It gets divvied up in population because of our smallness. Cost can take away from us too. So that's why we're kind of staying where we're at.
So there has been further discussion and
Yeah,
looking into it.
That was brought up, so I asked somebody point blank, I said, what if we split, what would be the ramifications, and the cost would be that we would lose, we would not get half like we normally do. It'd be a percentage, and it might not be to our favor, we're not pushing it currently.
Well, I was curious because I was kind of getting that impression in what John was talking about at our joint board of health, and to me, I think that would be an unwise decision. I think it works well that we can work in Fillmore County and trade off. I mean, sometimes when we get short staffed on either side of the either county, so somebody else can help fill in and help us out in a situation like that. So I think it's been working well for the past, how many years? Forever. So I'm glad that you looked into the.
Yeah. No, it's not to our benefit at this time.
Yeah. All right. Wow.
This works. Okay. First off, I would recommend that we ask Brian to put together a request for proposal on that T hangar at the airport, so we can actually find out what it would cost to build. And he talked to us about the $3 million. That was a facility that land acquisition, all the land prep and everything else that went into it. So that $3 million amount, we've already got the land, we already got the taxiways to the facility. It's just a question of building the T hangar. So it should be back in the neighborhood of what we were talking about initially. Also, I'm going to talk to him about getting costs so we can come up with a square foot price for land rental or land lease based on our costs that we've incurred. So if somebody wants to build their own, we can tell them how much it's going to cost to rent the 60 by 60 or whatever the space is that they're going to build a hangar. We're going to have a standardized size for that. Second thing, wheelage tax. If we're going to do it, we got to notify them before August. And the money can be used for anything highway department. It doesn't have to have a specific purpose, but it has to be highway department. If it's for a project, if it's for equipment, if it's for something dedicated or delegated to the highway department, then we can use the wheelage tax for that. So that would generate roughly $200,000. I went to a Selco meeting talking about their budget, and they're sticking to the budget as far as that's concerned. Our contract with them isn't up until next year. District 9, I have lots of notes from District 9. The biggest conversation was with regard to marijuana ordinances that we have to have. It is suggested that we hurry up and get our ordinance in place or in moratorium because of this early licensure that the state is allowing and the social equity. So the licensing is by the state. Permitting is by the county or the city, because the city stands alone and has their own ordinances. So their, time, place, and manner can be different from the county, because the cities have the right to set their own. And it was recommended that we have a meeting. A lot of the counties are meeting with all the cities in their county to decide, are they going to do their own? Are they going to acquiesce to the county? Caledonia and the Crescent are going to want to do their own. And we would have registration fees that we can charge, but not licensing. Another issue as far as the zoning is, from an ag point of view, most of this is gonna be in greenhouse. It's not gonna be out in the open. And the greenhouses are ag purpose, but this is for the growing part of it and should be permitted as well.
They got a hemp program, they grow that outside.
That's different. That's
medical.
that's for industrial use. Hemp. That's different than the cannabis.
But eventually it gets to be cannabis.
No, it's used for industrial use, like rope or
Yeah,
whatever.
I agree with you there. It is.
It's not for human consumption.
No, it ain't. That's why when it gets to a certain level, they gotta throw it away. They can't sell it as hemp because it's got too much THC in it, so they can't sell it.
Well, yeah,
When they burn it, don't stand up.
it's gotta stay under the three, whatever.
It's gonna
0.3.
stay under.
So then as far as the AMC, they're updating their information constantly because of information they're getting from the state. So you go to the AMC website and under resources and jobs is their information as far as the hemp programs or the THC program. Then the University of Minnesota Extension gave their program and gave out their cost figures, which are going up pretty dramatically. And we talked about a bunch of other things as far as the one of the topics was staffing. And some of the counties say they're getting more applicants instead of less applicants now for some of their jobs as far as be it in the highway department, be it in their human resources department, their application numbers are going up instead of going down. So I found that to be kind of interesting. And then I talked with Matt Hilgard. He mentioned you, Eric. Because he says he enjoys your calls because you're calling him about different things. And he gave you a pat on the back for the questions that you raised and the issues that you talked to him about.
That's good.
So I thought I'd give you a little kudos for that. And then after I got done at District 9, I cruised down to Winona for a Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Program and a review of staffing and a review of the executive director. And had that meeting last night. Oh, I also at the District 9, I forgot. Everybody gives their county reports. I told them that we're still working on our juvenile detention facility, waiting for DOC's approval to come back so the school district can do their application to the Department of Education. Talked about the airport T-hanger. Told them that we're struggling with our ordinances as far as the zoning, county and city and whatnot. And that we're updating our IT with regard to this facility as well as our law enforcement IT that we're gonna do. That we're in negotiations with all our unions. And that was it. I'm done.
Well, thank you, Bob, for going for us as a representative for the county. So.
It was a nice day for a ride.
Yeah.
In the rain.
I only got rained down once.
I don't know if you guys noticed this. I think I forwarded them the MACA newsletters to you guys and it.
Yay for our $1 million. Oh, wait, that's not.
No.
Well,
It said in there that Houston County,
Yes.
Houston County approved $200,000 for jail upgrades. I think it was 200,000, it was a 200 million, 200,000.
200,000.
And I read that, I thought, what? I didn't catch that. I mean, I don't remember approving that. Well, it turned out it was Houston County, Alabama. Wrong
How
county.
that got into Maca, I don't know. Yep.
They saw Houston County.
I emailed Lori and I said, I think you got the wrong county and you almost gave me a heart attack.
Yeah.
And she apologized, so.
Joel.
I'm curious, Bob, on your just, when the discussion of the cannabis thing came up. You know, where the cities have theirs, so who controls the 1 per 12.5? Is that a city can do that too, or?
There's a lot of flip flopping on that. The county is obligated to require 1 per 12.5. And if it's over 12.5 population, you gotta have 2. If it's over 25,000, you gotta have 3. So it's 1 per 12.5. Anything over 12.5 requires another one. So it's
And
over and above.
our population is 18,000 something.
So we're obligated as a county to provide 2.
That's a.
But if the city of Caledonia has 2 already, that would fulfill the county's obligation to have 2. Because there's 2 in the county. If we as a county don't put a restriction on how many, when we open it up to the let the economy decide. It doesn't matter.
And there's no reality.
Then there's no restrictions, other than you gotta have the 2.
Okay,
Is that a may or shall?
You shall have 2.
Okay. That
Minimum. It's a minimum. But so we're not gonna put any restrictions on it from economic benefit point of view, and the city of Caledonia and the city of La Crescent are both gonna have a couple. We're
Yeah,
covered.
Spring Grove, they want to keep their own. They're gonna stay with Caledonia's ordinance. They're not going under the counties.
Right.
And I mean, I don't blame them. They got.
Found it interesting that they can be, I mean, the state says 1,000 feet from the school is a recommendation. Not a requirement. So,
so we can set that. That was the max is 1,000 feet.
Right.
We could set that.
Yeah.
We could make it 0. We have it right next to a school.
only the non-city, you know, as far as the county is concerned, because if the city of Caledonia's got their own ordinances, they can set the distance to the school.
Hmm.
We can say 1,000 feet in the county, but the school setback or nursing home or childcare, whatever. The city is, with their own autonomy, can set their own setback.
Mhm.
In Spring Grove, that's just the bottling company. They don't sell none of the candies or anything like that. They're just doing infused pops. So I mean, you can't,
They're the low potency.
yeah, I don't know what the potency is, but
Yeah, they're the low potency, 0.3 or 0.3 or less. Take a lot of bottles of Spring Grove pop to get high,
It's experience.
unless you're mixing stuff with it.
Commissioner Schultz.
We had department head meeting yesterday. I'll just give kind of a quick brief. Mary from the recorder's office said that the land shark's up and running. Sounds like no real hiccups. Things are working good with their new staff member. We've been busy. Highway department, county 2, I don't know if anyone's been out that way. They're doing a lot of ditch preparation for the work coming up there next year to get slopes better and safer. And they're gonna start milling on County 13, reported next Monday. Luke said the guys are gonna be out in the field, starting to do some assessments in different areas. Sound like kind of the northern area, and that they got a new hangar that's got a QR code that you can sign up and do your survey to help make things a little easier for both ends. So that's something to look forward to seeing. Martin said that the CUPs were high in May, which we kind of seen with what came across our table, but they're slowing down here in June, so that's a good thing. So he's getting caught up, and he stated on cannabis what you guys just said, that La Crescent is looking at their own products. IT Andy busy. He's getting some of the audio stuff in check for the upgrade in our meeting room here. He gave a brief on that, and the spunk program that we approved here a month or 2 ago. It's he's working with that, and okay.
Splunk.
And I have no idea what Andy talks about with that, so leave it at that. Survey guys are busy doing field work, so he's been out of the office some. If you're looking for him, they're trying to get caught up. Veteran Services, it was kind of interesting. He said that the program for the stars that they put out on the headstones and that are hard to get right now. So they're working on trying to reallocate something on that. Polly reported the election judge trainings and gonna be in full swing here, and they're looking at training over 200 people. So they're gonna be busy with that. H&R is busy with contract negotiation. We kind of heard this coming up today and getting some of our open positions filled. And finance basically has audit work that they're doing and getting information out. So it's pretty productive, informative meeting. You got anything more that I missed?
Oh, you hit that pretty well around the head there, boy. You got every one of them. I ain't got much to say about the truth. He said it all.
So
Only update I got is I would like to have an hour scheduled for our workshop to work on our zoning ordinances and updates. I think we need to do that so we get some of this stuff cleared up and so we don't have all these arguing and fighting and stuff. And
Do you, the ordinances are big, is there a section that we should start with?
on zoning, we want to work on the zoning to start out with.
Which part of zone?
Like 2 for 40s and there's a 50-foot on one and they like to change that to 10 or 15 from property lines. On the sides, in the back, the front's got to be 50 from the road. It's just some little,
Section number or something.
little tweaks in there. that-
Setback, property line setback.
so, There's just some things we could tweak and make the zoning laws a lot easier.
It just, there's so many.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, so we need to get started so we can get some of these taken care of and we need to tweak some of these, so we're not sitting here fighting and arguing and
So the main one is the one per quarter,
that one, and then there's
the setback one.
Amelia has a couple she wants to bring forward too. She has some that she wants to see if we can change. To help make things go easier.
Get a little agenda put together.
Yep.
Highlights of which one.
And then we can get some ideas how to move forward and then they can investigate some of this. And see what we can do and what we can't do.
Okay, well, I'll contact Amelia and
Good.
Martin and relay that to them. Anything else?
No, I'm done.
So I'm a little confused with the agenda today. We pulled Luke's resignation. He said in light of the subject of step placing being discussed again in tomorrow's meeting. And that this has significant weight on my decision. I respectfully ask that the resignation be tabled until the subsequent meeting. But then the discussion and step placement was pulled. So where are we at?
We're at step 7.
What?
As was voted on 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so we're not having any more discussion on it then.
But I was gonna free up going to step 9 again, but with discussions as it was and me too, that was coming out of the woodwork, I reconsidered and leave it at step 7.
When I talked to Lucas this morning, he asked that the resignation be withdrawn.
Because of this meeting of discussion.
Nope. He knew that was.
That's what it says in the email.
All right, that email came before I talked.
So. Where's HR's point on this? Where do you stand on this test? What is HR's recommendation or whatever? We received emails from you of some information to discuss for this.
I was asked to bring forth a discussion revisiting the assessor's step placement and forward some information regarding that. This is a determination for the board, not for HR. Subsequently, it was all withdrawn by the board members, not by HR. It was. So I don't have a position on this. It's all within the board.
HR doesn't have a position on.
Whether to put this back for reconsideration for the board or not. No, that's up to the board members.
I initiated the request last Thursday when I found the resignation. And after careful discussion to myself and getting the Me Too's from all over that, I felt that in best interest, let's leave it as is to go forward. And I hate losing the leadership that we've had in that department for years. But I guess in light of the costs, eventually, it'll be a cost us to train and so on, so.
That
I'm
is
just
not, that is not the case though. You withdrew discussions of step placement. Talked to Lucas. He wanted to withdraw his letter of resignation, which means we don't have to apply, advertise for a assessor. We should still be advertising for appraisal.
Oh, he's not quitting now.
So, any comment?
Luke? You can come up and sit next to Tess here. Just so you know, we're in discussion here. We're not, we're past the action parts.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of say why I pulled my resignation. Yes, I was disappointed at the actions of the board, but in the last 3 weeks, I've received probably well over 500 phone calls from people in the public asking me to stay, thanking me for what our office has done, and being in the public service and how much this county means to me. I consulted with a lot of people over the weekend and decided that in the best interest of the county, I should stay in my position. So that's why I withdrew my resignation. So I just thought I should say that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't act on his letter, it's a moot point, right?
I didn't.
If we don't act on his letter, it's a moot point.
Right, and we
As if
made,
it was not on, as if it had never been on the agenda.
and we had made a motion that passed 3-1, 2 meetings ago, for him to with the rebate steps. Reached it.
So now is he accepting that?
Well, the board action,
Well, see, this is confusing. There must have been an official denial because he submitted resignation. So then, but I understand you can change your mind. I get that. So. This whole thing. I mean, it's been very confusing and discombobulated. It's just. Crazy.
It is what it is now. Done.
Okay. Well, we'll go on to closed session.
I just want to make one comment, thank you.
Thank you.
That said, I'll make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.03 subdivision 1B to discuss labor negotiation.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are now going to officially, motion was made by Bob Burns and seconded by Dewey to come out of closed session at 11:40.
The board was in closed session for labor negotiations subject to Minnesota statute, section 13D03 subdivision 1B. To discuss labor negotiations. No motion, no determinations were made as to actions taken by the board at that time that require any kind of motion.
Okay.
Where,
We
where's
have-
Dallas? Where are they meeting at for 49? Are they in that room? Okay.
So is there any closing public comment? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I will.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussions?
So now we gotta
All those
go.
in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.